I'm thrilled to be moderating a panel at SportNXT 2023, and we're going to be doing things differently. Our theme is Supercharging Your Game Plan. So this is not about proving the value of women's sport. We all know it's valuable. It's doing the work it needs to do. This is now about how to accelerate the best business performance and business growth for you, but also have the biggest impact for the women and girls that are, involved in the sporting area that you are in. I think it's absolutely brilliant to have the caliber of panel that we have. I'm really thrilled to say that we'll be speaking to Nick Hockley, Chief Executive of Cricket Australia, Amanda Laing, Chief Commercial and Content Officer from Foxtel Group, and Kate Jones, the NRL Commissioner, and one more very special guest who will be joining us. And we'll be really getting into it. This conversation will be about challenging you, provoking you, kickstarting sustainable actions to accelerate your game plan, to supercharge your game plan. And it's really going to be about our panelists sharing real applicable lessons, real applicable actions that you can take back to your environment and apply. One of the things I absolutely love about SportNXT is the real philosophy around the full integration of female leaders in women's sport across every aspect of the event. It's not something that's pulled out and spoken about for 1 hour on a panel, even though we have this amazing focused panel. It's really in amongst absolutely everything that you will experience at SportNXT. And for me, some of these leaders are just phenomenal, people that I've admired for years. People like Robin Denholm, Peggy O'Neill, Kate Roffey, Josephine Sukkar, Kelly Ryan, Cindy Hook, Sophie Maloney, amongst many, many others. And I think that what we're seeing is this huge emergence of these incredibly, impactful female leaders across the sector. And honestly, I can't wait. The theme for this year's UN International Women's Day is Embrace Equity, and I'm an equity in sport advocate. I've been working in commercial sport for nearly 20 years, but over the last 8 or so years, I've been very dedicated to advancing, increasing commercial investment and advancing the interests of disabled people, women and girls, and Indigenous peoples in sport. And so for me, whilst this theme really stands for UN International Women's Day, it actually stands for what the sports sector itself needs to be doing. It needs to be embracing and encouraging and including everybody in society into sport. So it's an incredibly powerful message this year. The only thing, to be honest, standing in our way from making women's sport even more formidable over the next 5 years is ourselves. The choices that we make every day about how we invest, how we prioritise the business growth and the social impact of women in sport. And so, I'm so thrilled that at SportNXT we'll be challenging and provoking people's unconscious biases. We'll be asking them to think about the things that they're doing every day that have a positive or a negative impact on the growth of women's sport, and really asking them to go back into their environment and make different choices going forward. We're seeing a huge shift at the moment right across the board internationally, with international federations and national sporting organisations really putting strategic plans in place, long-term plans for the growth of participation, but also pathways from grassroots right through to high performance for women's sport. We're also seeing build around those pathways commercialisation plans that are increasingly taking into account what the fans are looking for, what they're engaging with, what experience they're expecting if they're in a stadium or they're watching a broadcast, or even engaging with the athletes or the sports in the community. And what we're seeing, finally, I think, is the emergence of sports organisations recognising that women's sport has to stand on its own. It has to be invested into and have long-term strategic plans attached to it. So commercialisation of women's sport traditionally has been tied into men's sports. So a lot of sports organisations have seen it as a loss leader. We'll take some money from the men's program and we'll put it into the women's program, and they should be grateful for that and they should be happy with that. We're seeing a very big shift now towards the fact that women's sport is starting to run on its own 2 feet. And I think that that's what, certainly at SportNXT, we'll be talking about that extensively within the panel that I'm really pleased to be moderating. So we're going to be talking about how you supercharge your game plan, how you actually get your women's sport properties and programs running as fast as possible and delivering you the business growth and social impact that you are anticipating, separate to your men's sport program, but in a complementary fashion. So, I think that for us to really deliver against the potential of women's sport, we need a plan and we need investment. The golden decade is going to be incredible for inclusivity in general, to be honest, for sport, not just women and girls, but disabled people. We also have the Paralympic Games, coming alongside the Olympic Games. Also with the increasing, commitment to Indigenous inclusion in sport. The FIFA World Cup is taking place in 2023, and the involvement of Indigenous New Zealand and Indigenous Australians is taking a front seat, in that experience for the fans and in that experience for the athletes and all of the stakeholders involved. So the Golden Decade is an incredible opportunity to take the momentum that's happening in so many different parts of sport to really, move ourselves towards, equity for women and girls, equity for people with a disability, equity if you come from an Indigenous background, equity if you're LGBTI, and sport becomes something that, under the UN framework, it's a human right. And as we sit here on the cusp of UN International Women's Day, we're talking about equity, we're talking about achieving, a community that every single person gets to be involved in. Sport has an amazing leadership opportunity for this. And I think that we, the next 10 years, certainly in Australia and New Zealand, that golden decade is going to be an incredible opportunity for us all. The sessions that I'm super excited to see outside of my own, to be honest, are all the technology and innovation ones. I'm so excited about this. This is the philosophy that SportNXT, carries with it. It's all about the future, what's coming, what's going to be, the next big thing that's going to deepen fan engagement, that's going to widen reach, that's going to deliver a better experience for everybody engaged in sport at every level of the system. I'll tell a little anecdote I think is quite interesting. In Aotearoa, New Zealand, we have a fantastic ex-football firm, Rebecca Selden, who's started a campaign called Correct the Internet, which has really taken off here. And it's this idea that the internet has learned our bias, and so if you type into it, who is the best footballer in the world, you will always get a male response, for example. And this happens across a multitude of questions. Now, with the evolution of AI and the recent launch of ChatGPT, I thought it would be really fascinating to ask the chatbot the exact same question and see what would happen. So I literally put into it, who is the best footballer in the world? And I got 3 male names. And then I said to it, why haven't you, given me any female names? And it apologized to me for the site and then delivered me, 3 female names. And then I thought, I'm going to test it and see if it can learn. And I put in who is the best tennis player in the world. And then it gave me 3 male names and 3 female names. And I just thought that was fascinating, terrifying, really terrifying. But it gives you an idea of the fact that we're really entering into a totally new space when it comes to technology, and an opportunity, perhaps to correct some of the things that we haven't done so well in the past, to make sure that our female athletes, our female participants in our women's sport are prioritised right from the very beginning. And that technology, because women's sport is an evolving space, and it's a space where there hasn't been a lot necessarily of embedded traditions or embedded systems and structures, it's a place where we can try new things, where we can use technology to deepen fan engagement, where we can connect with people in different ways. And so I'm super excited about that. Can't wait to get stuck into all of those sessions at SportNXT 23, and really encourage you guys to grab that as well.